Good evening. Let me just reintroduce myself. Mark Brentley, candidate for Pittsburgh School Board, running for re-election. This will be my fourth four-year term. That makes me tied for the longest person to ever hold this seat in terms of the African American board members. And so it would be an honor. 1999, I first ran for the school board. Many of you know I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh Public Housing. There's not a back alley or street that I haven't been in this community. A couple of them I got my butt whipped on them. You know, Jamie, I tried, but this is hometown. I'm running for re-election because there's a whole lot of work that still has to be done. But I can't do it unless you all get up and get out and vote for me. Yes, it's a high profile election now because there are other forces that are involved now. There are other forces trying to make sure that you forget what has happened and you don't have to worry but your kids aren't learning. And so there's a lot of money out there. And so you will hear and see a lot of things in the next 20 or 30 days. I'm only asking that you keep in mind that you should support that person who's been a part of you. You should support the person based upon his or her record. You should support the person who never left you. It's different when folks just come up and now want to be a part or be a friend. You should support those who have never left you. It is an honor for me to run again. It's always an honor to be here. I have a long list of successes in terms of what I've been able to accomplish on the school board. I'll just mention a few. The one that is now taking on a direction of its own is when I first ran in 1999, I decided that I have to find a way to get men, to get them up, get them out, and get them involved in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. So I put together in 1999 the first Pittsburgh Public Schools Take a Father to School, where we encourage men to come on out. And to those of you who participated last year or heard about it last year, we had over 5,000 men who decided to come out and to volunteer and to be a part of PTOs, PTAs, and PSCCs. I've also been active on advocating for parents' rights. There's a lot of things that happens in this district. They do it, and then they never get the parents involved. Or if you've noticed in the last 5 years, under the previous administration, they were good for that. They would do something really crazy like change curriculums or change the configuration of the school, and then that community had to run and chase and catch up. And I think that's a little unfair. So there's a lot of things I've been active on. Presently, I am the chair of the NBEWB, that is the Women in Business Enterprise Committee. My job is to make sure that it is an even playing field, so when you decide to do business with the district, that you get an opportunity to get a contract, that you get an opportunity to hire or to get a service contract. That's my job. And in doing that, sometimes you become the enemy of a lot of folks, because if this person over here is used to coming in, getting contracts, increasing his or her amount, getting automatic renewals on those contracts, and I am now saying, wait a minute, you have to share, then sometimes you get a bad name. But it's all good because I have broad shoulders and I'm doing it for the right reasons. So I am asking you all to please keep me in mind on May 17th. It is a small poor man's campaign, so any of you who are interested in volunteering, I'll be more than happy to leave you with a number. I am ready and anxious to answer any questions that you may have about the campaign. How do you
pick the one you want? I want to say, can we hear from all the candidates and then we can go out?
I mean, we could do that.
You
could do that.
I think that would be good.
Freeman, some of you I know. Thank you, baby. Some of you already know I am a parent. I am not, I want to make it very clear, I am not a politician. I have no ambitions of being a politician. This is not a stepping stone. I am running for school board director, district number 8. I'm not trying to go to city council after this. I'm not trying to go to state rep after this. This is not a career ladder move for me because I'm quite happy with my job. I have not been necessarily actively campaigning. I'm already an advocate for children. Someone asked me Sunday, one of my neighbors, where have you been out? Actually, nowhere. I have not been anywhere. I'm an advocate for children. I'm not a politician. I have a son who is 10 years old. He's in Manchester Elementary School. I'm the PTA president there, and I oversee, make sure of the well-being of 262 children in my school. I'm always a member or attend the monthly council meeting. I'm there when they ask me, other teachers, other principals, they'll specifically ask me to talk on certain issues because I'm an advocate of all children. At one point, I was very discouraged because out of Oliver, Manchester, Martin Luther King, there was no parent group. Out of Oliver, and Oliver's not necessarily in that district, but I include Oliver because it's in the North Side proper. Oliver, Manchester, King, there's 1,600 kids there, and not one parent. Did you hear what I said? Not one parent. Not one parent. They're making decisions in the school. They're making decisions about curriculum. They're making decisions about Oliver going to a different kind of school. Not one parent. I had to see for myself what they were doing at the Oliver when I was relatively new in the game. And I went up there, and they're doing this and that. I'm following the parents. The parents who were there might have been 4 families. The parents who were there, my first time in Oliver, I'm walking behind the parents trying to get to the PSSC, is what they call it. And they said, we're not going to no parent meeting. We're going to play bingo. Well, that was the parent meeting. They're playing bingo. So for 10 minutes, they talked about the outcomes, what the school district wants to do for Oliver and turn that into a vote tech and move the kids in this direction so they can meet some kind of measure of success for 10 minutes. They had the Pittsburgh Promise there talking about, we got promise for you. We got the scholarship for you for 10 minutes. You know what they did the other 2 hours? They played bingo. Hurry up, call the next number. For 2 hours, I sat there. And for 2 hours, I looked at the principal, and the principal looked at me. I looked at the teachers, and the teachers looked at me. I asked them all kind of questions. Well, where's the parents at? Oh, we begged the parents to step up and be leaders, but nobody will be a leader. The parents, the teachers set the agenda. The teachers, the staff determine what they want to talk about. I am a parent. And like I said, I have not really been actively politicking because that's not what I'm about. I'm about advocating, being the voice for our children. I have spent a lot of times at the school board talking to the administrators. What are their concerns? I spent a lot of time talking to other parents. What are your concerns? I've been talking to teenagers, and they've been talking about their concerns. I talked to the seniors. They're worried about crime. Oh, these kids is out of control. We're talking about taxes. What are we going to do with the budget? I spent a lot of time just talking and listening. If you're going to represent me, I need to know all the issues, not me and what I think is right. I need to hear everybody's opinion. We were at the Hill House, and you'll see on my flyer, it's not about who I'm opposing, who I want to be friends with, who I'm trying to be a mortal enemy with. I'm not trying to divide and conquer. Doesn't that sound different? I wish every candidate well, and I want everybody to vote for the best candidate for our children. On April 7th, I think, my birthday, we were at the Hill District, and one of the attendees put on their card, just like you are, what would you do? I have a 3rd grade son, and 70% of the class was deficient in reading. If you are elected to the board, what would you do? And I answered to her, what will you do? It's not really the school board's responsibility. It's April, May, June, July, August, September. 5 months are going to go by. And if your child is in 3rd grade and he's below, he's reading at a 2nd grade level. You let 5 months go by and he's going to be at a 1st grade level, and you're going to wait until August to try and let the school district or a teacher teach your child to read? No, my problem is this. I have certain issues. One is with our fiscal responsibility as a school board. The second one, and the biggest one, is the lack of parent involvement or parent discouragement. Some parents would like to be involved, and sometimes the school board, it's not easy to get in the link. It's not easy to talk. It's not easy to go to those monthly board meetings when they lined up behind the table, you've written up your comment, you've asked for some assistance, and no one responds back to you. No one. I was asking a question about the violence in our schools, how we're going to have all these kids with behavior problems, And I gave them, all these numbers from our schools. What are you going to do about it? Let's sit down and talk. That was in December. It is now what? Well, it's April. I have not gotten a response. Not even from my representative who represents me. They were talking about our children. It's not a time for friendship. So, to that mother, I said, what are you going to do? We share a responsibility. It's not the school district's sole responsibility to teach our children. Part of this is our responsibility. We have to prepare them to enter school. We have to be parents to incorporate what they're doing in school. We have to reinforce it at home. It's not my responsibility to take on all these children, which we do because we're concerned about our kids. We spend a lot of time as a PTA, and I'm going to cut it short because Mr. Rita's trying to get up here and say what she has to say. We spend a lot of time in our PTA. We're invested with our kids. We make house calls with our PTA. Our principal said that there's one class, sixth or seventh grade class, did something outrageous. And we sit down and we talk to our principal on a monthly basis. Sometimes I'm there every week just to keep track of things. And they did something outrageous. And we asked to go up there, and this is Mr. Wallacepp, the vice president. We're a committee of 2, PTA, 2 in our school, and there's 262 kids. And you mean to tell me there's not a parent? 262. So we went up to the class and we warned them, y'all want to act crazy? We're going to go and see your parents. That was on a Wednesday. And they kind of laughed at us and had a few sucking the teeth moments, the shaking of the head moments. I said, we're going to go see your parents. We're just coming up here to warn you. That was Wednesday. Saturday, I went out and I made a few house calls. Sunday, we waited just as good until that Steeler game was off. And we finished the rest. And we made all those house calls. We went to every single house. We talked to every parent. And we let the parent know this is what's going on in the school. And we ain't having it. Did you hear what I said? We ain't having it in our school. And we didn't have to call the police. Did nobody get all upset? Wasn't no angry feelings. A lot of us shook their hand. We shook each other's hand. If you have any other problems, that's what school is about. Our kids need to be there to learn and to succeed. In closing, if your child cannot read, it's so important. If your child cannot read, they cannot succeed. Did you hear? That's what I said to that mother. Did you hear what I said? If your child can't read, they can't succeed. It's important that your child reads. And you're welcome. I encourage every parent. It's not about me. Let the child read this. There is a test on my little information. There's an actual test. And there's an actual score where they can tell and forecast, predict, and finance off a second grade reading level. They're predicting how many jail cells will be needed for African American males. They can tell you in second grade. So if your child is having any difficulty, this is not a scare tactic. It is not. It's absolutely true. They can predict the cost of that jail cell. I'm all about kids. There's only 2 numbers I'm interested in. That's the high school graduation rate, which is very low, and continues to go down and down and down, and the AYP measures. Who is making progress in what school? And not only for my child, because it don't really matter. One child, the whole school has to come up together. One child I can keep my eye on, but it's the whole classroom. If you lift the bottom, the boat will float. If you lift the school, we'll all get there together. If you lift the district, how much more better we're going to be. Our kids is dropping out, they're getting into trouble, and the jail cells are ever increasing. We have a responsibility, and you are free to vote for whoever you like, but I am an advocate. I'm not a politician. I will remain the advocate even after this election. I ask that you make the best choice for whatever candidate, whichever candidate you choose. Isn't that nice? I'm not even soliciting for myself. But the most important thing is take my flyer, let your child take the test, and let them be the judge. If they can read, they will succeed. But if they cannot read, they will fail. And it's not a scare, it's the absolute truth. There's a jail cell waiting. based on second grade reading levels. Let your child take the test. Thank you very much.
Arita Gilliam Rue. And I'm standing before you tonight because I am a candidate for school board for District 8. And I'm running for District 8 school director because I believe that I'm a ready and experienced voice. I have worked for UPMC Shadyside Hospital for the last 17 years as a school health coordinator. I train high school students. And those high school students teach middle school students that now is not the time to have sex. It's a program that has run successfully for the last 20 years, and I've coordinated it for the last 17. I'm also a director for Family Links on their board. I also have been, for the last 2.5 years, a board watcher with A+ schools. And I also lead their school, one of their school works teams. So I've spent the last 2.5 years watching the Pittsburgh Public School Board and looking at how it operates, and I've decided that it's time for a change. I've decided that I can and will endeavor to bring our children to the place that they need to be. One of the things that I think is really important to note is that I've centered my campaign around 3 values. One of those is equity. I believe that the resources should be evenly distributed among all the schools. I think people should be able to come to Pittsburgh and make a decision about a neighborhood that they want to live in based on the architecture and the trees and the children. I don't think that they should have to scramble to get their children into a school because the neighborhood school is not a good school. I think we need to make sure that all of our children are being educated equitably. I also believe the other value is community. I agree with Mrs. Freeman that all of our parents and community, we need to get involved. Our kids cannot continue to not have our involvement. They need us. We need to help them. You have a program at Northview. I also worked as a proposal reviewer for the United Way. And when the Ready Freddy program came to Northview, the money to support that, I was one of the approvers of that money. And essentially, that program is preparing preschool students for school. It's making sure that they get there. But they can't get there if a parent's not making sure that they get up in the morning, get dressed, and get to school. And we have to tell our children that school is important. And so that's community. That's the community. And we have foundations and organizations in Pittsburgh who are prepared and ready to help us do this job. But we have to be prepared and willing to take our part, to take our place. Finally, one of my values is also innovation. All of our children are exposed to technology in a variety of ways, whether it's video games or computers, they're on Facebook, they watch a lot of technological things on TV. It is a crime, in my view, that they go into classrooms where there's no technology available. Our children, African American children, are primarily visual learners, which means they need to see it. And if they can't see it, they're going to have some difficulty. Help me understand why it is that all of our classrooms are not equipped with the kind of equipment that gives our children the visuals that they need in order to be successful. I think it's really important for us to recognize that the board is elected by you. You decide who's going to represent you, the people. And we're there with a public trust, board directors, and I'm saying we because I intend to be one. We're in place as a public trust to make sure that there is quality public education in Pittsburgh. The district should not make decisions that you have to run behind. You should be informed as decisions are being made so that you can prepare in advance to know whether or not this is something that we want. I think it is a crime that we don't come out enough, that they don't come out enough. You know, I worked in the East End on a project that I am appalled with at the moment because we originally did a design that we believed was good for the kids. And the administration made its first change by turning it into a magnet school. And now they've made a third change, which is to make it a magnet with inside a comprehensive school. Well, the reality is that I don't think that's the answer either. I think it should have stayed the way it was originally proposed, and I'm speaking specifically about the Boys and Girls Academy at Westinghouse High School. I happen to believe that that was a good plan. And it was a good plan because there is evidence that a single-gender academy is good for children who are low-performing or who are low-achieving. It's the environment that they need to be in so that they can focus on academics. But when the district decided that they were going to get sued, they changed it. And in changing it, we created a school for parents who find it difficult to choose. We have parents in this district who are working, trying to make a living, who are trying to get things done. And we need to have administrators as well as a board that's focused on our kids. And focused on our kids to the extent that if, in fact, we can't get parents involved, what I'm saying to you is that we all need to be involved. I've worked as a mentor at Allegheny Traditional. I've worked as a mentor at Lincoln. I've worked as a, I've done, as I said to you, these boards, and I've done the school works. I've also recently, on Wednesday night, last Wednesday night, I received a Jefferson Award, which is an award for public service for super volunteers, because that's what I am. I'm a super volunteer. I've been working for kids for the last 25 years. I'm not a Pittsburgher. I came to Pittsburgh 17 years ago to do the job that I currently do. But I came with a daughter, and my daughter attended Friendship Elementary School, she attended Rogers Kappa, and she attended Shenley. I had to choose schools. I had to pick schools because the schools where I live weren't necessarily the best schools for her. And I knew how to make a choice. I think the district could do a much better job of teaching all of us how to make a better choice. And I'll never forget this. When my daughter went from the 8th grade to the 9th grade, we knew that she wanted to go to Shenley High School. And I knew that it was an international studies program. I knew that she needed to have a language. And I said to her, you find out from your Spanish teacher when you're going to take your competency, because you need a proficiency in Spanish. And she came back to me and she said, well, she says I'm not going to take one. I said, what is she talking about? You got to take one. So I go to the school to ask. And when I get to the school, the teacher says to me, oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Gilliam. You're confused like most parents are confused. Rosalind only takes Spanish 2 days a week. I said, how you learn to speak Spanish taking it 2 days a week? She said, well, they're only learning culture and they're learning some words, but they're not learning to be proficient. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? At the time, God rest his soul, there was an administrator who had been a former principal at Langley High School. His name is Larry Hubbard. And Mr. Hubbard and I were in a meeting, and we sat down together, and I said to him, Larry, what am I supposed to do? And I have a napkin. I still have the napkin that he outlined for me the coursework that my daughter was going to take in order for her to be successful at Shenley High School, because she hadn't had algebra in junior high. And so that meant she wasn't supposed to go into that program. But he told me exactly what she needed to take. And we went about the business of making her schedule exactly. We followed it to the letter. And my daughter graduated from Shenley in 2005 with not only a general diploma, but she graduated with an international diploma. She came out of that international program. And when that happened to me, the first thing I thought about was, who does this? Who does this for people? You know, if you have children who are in a CAS program, then you may get the information. If you have children who are getting IEPs, you may get the information. But for regular people whose children are going to school every day, who helps them? And I believe that the district could do a much better job. And I believe that the board should do a much better job of making sure that the district, the administration at Belleville, they work for the board. It's not the other way around. And sometimes I wonder if the board is in fact working for the administration. Because the reality is we get rubber stamps. We see them stamping, okay, that's good, let's go. That's good, let's go. I acknowledge that Mr. Brentley is a voice on that board who looks for equity, and he makes sure that every time there's an issue that relates to equity that it comes up, and he brings it up. But my question is, why doesn't it come up before we get to that agenda review? Why doesn't it come up before we get to the legislative review? Because that's when something can be done about it. By the time it gets to the legislative review, we're ready to sign the tabs and move on. And so I think that you need to have a director who's going to be involved and keep you informed. We've got some serious challenges in Pittsburgh. We've got safety issues. We've got dwindling enrollment. Schools are getting smaller and smaller. Our population is getting older and older, and we have to find a way to bring people into this system. And the only way people are going to come into the Pittsburgh Public Schools is if we have good schools. And it's that simple. We need good schools in every neighborhood, not just a good school in Squirrel Hill and a good school in Shady Side. We need good schools across the board. And I think that all of you agree, and you want to see your kids well educated. But it takes both of us. Lisa is correct in that. It's not just the board. It's not just the administration. It's all of us working together. We are a community, and if we want to see Pittsburgh be the best city that it can be, and if we want our children to be the best educated children that they can be, I say to you on May 17th, vote for me. Arita Gilliam Rue, I am a ready and experienced voice, and I am ready to work for you and with you to make sure that your children have success after high school.
Thank you. And with that said,